Easy Riders, I'm Gary from Real Tours and this is 5 On, the series on our YouTube channel in which we give you 5 minutes of trivia about a specific film. This episode is about A Hard Day's Night from 1964. Spoiler alert, this video will contain plot spoilers. Stopwatch at the ready, roll film. During the opening sequence of the group running, George stumbles and falls, with Ringo falling over him in turn. This wasn't intended, and George ripped the suit that he was wearing, but he quickly recovered, laughed, and continued running. It was decided to retain the shot in the finished film. The title track was written entirely in one sitting by John Lennon on the night of April 13th, 1964, which was also the same day he had filmed the iconic bathtub scene. After Ringo had coined the phrase, John and Paul had basically raced to see who would come up with a song for the phrase and the movie title first. The whole of the original first day's shooting, which included the train sequence, was lost because the clapper loader was mistaken by fans at the station for one of the Beatles. In running away from screaming fans, he dropped the cans of negative, destroying them. Ringo Starr was praised for his solo scene at the riverside as a forlorn soul. However, his expression in that scene was actually the result of being severely hungover after a previous night of heavy drinking with the band. United Artists executives didn't really care about the movie itself. They were mainly interested in exploiting a legal loophole which would allow them to distribute the lucrative soundtrack album. In fact, they were fully expecting to lose money on the film. With a final cost of about $500,000 and box office take of about $8 million in the final week, the movie is amongst the most profitable percentage-wise movies of all time. In the scene where the Beatles are running and playing in the field, John Lennon was not actually there. He was away promoting his new book, John Lennon in His Own Right. A body double filled in for John and close-up shots of him were edited into the scene later. A copy of the book can also be seen on a mantelpiece in the background of a shot of Norman Shake and Sir Paul's very clean grandfather. The resulting album of the same name is the only one the Beatles released with every single song written and composed exclusively by Lennon and McCartney. Pattie Boyd appears in several scenes in the first act, all on the train. First, she is one of the two schoolgirls on the train they first encounter. Second, Paul McCartney chats her up with her friend. Third, she sits next to Paul and smiles and sings I Should Have Known Better. She and George Harrison, who met during filming, married within 18 months. Screenwriter Alan Owen claimed that the word grotty was a word used in Liverpool to mean grotesque, but the Beatles had never actually heard it before and believed that Owen had completely made this up. It subsequently was passed on to general usage, and linguists certainly cite the Beatles as the popularisers of the word in the early 1960s and trace grotty all the way back to Liverpool. Ringo Starr's answering a reporter's question, are you a mod or a rocker, with I'm a mocker, was voted as the 58th best in the 100 greatest movie lines of all time by Premiere in 2007. Ringo originally coined the quip during an appearance on Ready Steady Go in 1963. Before the movie was released in America, a United Artists executive asked director Richard Lester to dub the voices of the group with mid-Atlantic accents. Paul McCartney angrily replied, look, if we can understand a f***ing cowboy talking Texan, they can understand us talking Liverpool. The Beatles' record producer, George Martin, got an Academy Award nomination for his music score in the movie, but the Beatles themselves weren't nominated for their music. The constant mention of Paul McCartney's grandfather being very clean is a reference to actor Wilfred Bramble playing a rag and bone man in Steptoe and Son from 1962 onwards, featuring the catchphrase, you dirty old man. Steptoe and Son was remade in the US as Sanford and Son in 1972. A young Phil Collins appeared in the audience during the You Can't Do That number, though that sequence was unfortunately cut from the finished film. The 12-string Rickenbacker electric guitar played by George Harrison throughout this film inspired Roger McGuinn of the Byrds to obtain one. It became their signature sound. The movie's working title was just The Beatles, then Beatlemania, until Ringo Starr, who was exhausted after a long day, coined the phrase A Hard Day's Night, and this was accepted by the studio instantly. Some of the Beatles are shown smoking throughout the film. This was shocking to American audiences. While the Beatles had grown up in tough working class situations where smoking was common amongst youth, the band had been marketed to Americans as being cute, sweet, harmless mop tops who loved to wear matching outfits and joke around. This was important because their long hair was seen by conservative Americans as being dangerously radical. When Lester filmed the boys smoking, he had not even considered the impact on American conservatives. Even Elvis Presley, who shocked audiences in the late 50s, was never shown smoking in the early days, as this would have been a criminal offence. And time is up. I certainly hope that you've learned something new there, and if you haven't seen A Hard Day's Night in a while, then be sure to go back and give it a revisit. What film would you like us to cover next? Let us know in the comments below. We release videos weekly, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also click the bell to receive notifications on all future videos. Keep it real.